All right, y'all, here is my homemade low country boil ramen. It's something I just came up with while I was experimenting. I love to cook, I love to eat, I love to try new things. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe just as much as I did. All right, so for your meats, you're gonna need some crab legs, of course. I use king crab, you can use snow crab, you can use whatever sorts of crab you wanna use. Use about half a pound per person, or depends on people's appetites. Next is shrimp. I like my shrimp large. I like it deveined and deheaded, but I like to keep the skin on, aesthetics. Next, we have sausage. Feel free to use whatever type of sausage you like. I like the pork or beef, like smoked sausage or kielbasa. And then for the eggs, you can either hard boil the egg with your crab boil, or you can fry it to go on top of the ramen. So for produce, you will need red potatoes. I like to do 1 or 2 per person depending on their appetite. Ear of corn. I like to do half an ear of corn per person, of course, also depending on their appetite. I also like to add onions, garlic, as well as ginger. You'll also need some lemons to flavor the crab boil. Personally, I like to add a few extra veggies for the ramen side. We've got mushrooms, leeks, scallions, and 2 different types of chili peppers here. All right, so you'll need sesame oil, rice vinegar, hoisin or plum sauce, chili garlic sauce or gochujang, honey, we love the sweet stuff, sriracha, it's spicy, ramen noodles, of course. I've got this hot and spicy version as well as a spicy sesame version. Use whatever flavor you like. What's a crab boil without the Old Bay? I've got this garlic and herb version here as well as this concentrated liquid crab boil. All right, we've got parsley flakes, we've got basil leaves, as well as whole bay leaves. Feel free to use fresh or dried. I've got dried right here. We've got crushed red pepper and cayenne pepper, more spice. Salt, because we're black peppercorns. I prefer to use the whole peppercorn for boils like this. Garlic, more garlic, and sesame seeds. So for this next part, I'm going to just show you guys how I prep. I'm a stickler for having very clean vegetables, very clean produce, working with clean meat. So you're gonna see me go through and wash all the veggies, peel them all off, take off all of the rotten parts or the dried out parts or the parts that I don't eat. Make sure you get all the skin and stuff off. When it comes to things like like mushrooms and potatoes and things that come out of the ground, I like to be very, very careful and take my time like washing those things because nobody wants to eat dirt. Yeah, for the corn, make sure you get all those little stringy things off because that's not fun to eat and it gets stuck in your teeth. Yeah. Y'all, I promise I ain't ashy. That's sunscreen. Of course, we gotta clean the crabs. Make sure you scrub both sides. Get in there nice and deep black. Don't forget your scrubs. Fresh and so clean. All right, next, you're gonna take a very large pot. Make sure it can fit everything you've got. You're gonna fill it up with water, halfway, 3/4 of the way. Bring it to a boil, and then you're gonna add your bay leaves. You're gonna add your crushed red pepper. And then here you're also gonna add your Old Bay seasoning. So if you're gonna use the liquid, don't use the seasoning. I use both just because I didn't have a lot left. But the liquid concentration is very, very strong and very, very salty. So you do not need a lot. So you just add everything in. Oh, Loma. Handful of garlic. Use as much garlic as you like. I like ridiculously, inappropriately large amounts of garlic. Ginger, drop that on in there. Once you put everything in there, make sure to give your pot a couple of good big stirs to make sure everything is incorporated. Cover that bad boy on up and let it boil for a few minutes. Out. That's hot. All right, so once we've boiled it, remove the top. Don't judge my plate. I can't find the lid. And you are going to first add your sausage. In the words of Miss Tabitha Brown, like so. I think there's another piece of sausage that I'm about to chuck in there. Yep. And along with your sausage, you are also going to add your potatoes. For potatoes, I usually use 1 per person, but you know, like I said before, appetites. While your potatoes are boiling, maybe 5 minutes, go ahead and start chopping up your veggies. I like to multitask, save time. All right, so you're gonna want to take a large deep frying pan, preferably a wok, but whatever you have that's big enough to fit everything will work. You're gonna coat the bottom in sesame oil. So the thing about sesame oil, y'all, is that it burns very quickly. It gets to a very high temp very fast, so you're gonna need to keep an eye on it. I keep it on medium high heat. My stove goes from like low to 6, so I keep it at about a 4 when I'm using sesame oil. Once your sesame oil starts like steaming, smoking, popping, you're gonna want to go ahead and start browning your vegetables. So as usual, the first vegetable that I like to add is garlic. If I'm using ginger, I'll add that as well. So you're gonna want to take however much of that you want. As you can see, I love garlic and ginger. You're gonna throw it in there into the wok, and you're going to brown it. Once the garlic starts to brown, you're gonna want to go ahead and add your onions. I like to slice my onions, or julienne, whatever tickles your fancy, because I actually like to crunch on the onion while I'm eating my ramen. If you prefer, use smaller onions, different red onions, sweet onions, chop them up, whatever you like to do. This is your ramen, make it how you like. So we're gonna toss it and make sure that all the vegetables get brown. Okay, back to our pot. So with our sausage and our potatoes going, they should be at a rolling boil going really well. The next step, you're gonna wanna add your corn as well as your crab legs. So you wanna make sure that everything can fit. I prefer for everything to be under the water, but as long as, you know, you can steam out the crab legs and make sure everything else gets into the broth, that's best. Stir it on up to make sure everything's incorporated, and then you're going to cover it back. While you got a little more free time, while that boils for about 4 or 5 minutes, go ahead and chop up the rest of your veggies and get them ready to go in your wok. All right, so you've given that 3 or 4 minutes. You're going to next add your eggs. You want to make sure your eggs get covered up by the water in the pot. If you need to add more water, more seasoning, do that. But you want your eggs, if you're doing hard-boiled eggs, you want your eggs to get cooked. While that boils, back to the wok. So you want to make sure that everything is browning okay. Once you've gotten that brown and your onions are starting to get a little translucent, you want to go ahead and add whatever other vegetables you've got. So I've got mushrooms here, and then I'm going to toss my mushrooms around, incorporate it with the onions as well as the garlic and the ginger. Once the veggies are really starting to cook and the onions are starting to become clear, maybe about halfway, 3/4 of the way through, add you a splash of rice vinegar. Sorry, y'all, I do not work in measurements whatsoever. I sprinkle, shake, and pour until my ancestors tell me well done, and then I keep it moving. So when I write up the recipe, I will figure it out and write up measurements for you guys, because I'm sure that's frustrating for some people. All right, once that's nice and brown and soft, you can start adding the rest of your vegetables. You can see I added my leeks, my chilies, Mix it all up, incorporate it. I know some people like smaller size vegetables, so you can chop your vegetables up. I like mine bigger. I like to be able to feel the crunch, use my chopsticks, etc. Back to the boil. All right, so at this point you can add your shrimp. If you're using, I know some people like to use crawdaddies, clams, mussels. Those will be added along with the shrimp, one of the last things you add because they cook the fastest. So once again, make sure everything gets at least touching your broth. You want to make sure everything gets cooked in that. I'm adding a little bit more seasoning just to make sure everything's hit. At this point, I also will take one lemon, cut it in half, and squeeze in both halves into the broth. I like to squeeze it with the flesh facing down in my hand so that I can get any seeds. Cover that bad boy on up. All right, so you want to let that boil for about 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, look at that crab leg. Then you want to take everything out. Save your broth, but take everything out. Back to the wok. All right, so you're going to put all your seafood into what's in your wok. I decided to take the crab legs out and cook everything else first because they're huge, and everything else is really going to absorb the flavor better than the crab leg. You want to add some broth, just enough to make it, soupy so that everything's floating. And remember, this is what you're going to cook your noodles in. Ooh, yay. Now for the fun part. Add some of your broth. That looks like a cup, maybe 2. We'll see. Add some of your broth. And then you're going to add some of your hoisin sauce or plum sauce. It's got like a very sweet umami flavor. A lot of Asian cuisine is really, really sweet and then really, really spicy. So add as much as you like of that. Next, I also want to add some chili paste, chili garlic sauce. Want to add some cayenne pepper to that, as well as some parsley flakes. And then I'm also going to add some basil leaves. I love herbs. I put them in anything. I'm Southern. That's just how I cook. All right. So once you've got everything in there. Ooh, can't forget about the garlic powder. Ow. Copious amounts of garlic. And then you want to go in and mix everything up. Here, if you want a spicier sauce, I love spicy, as you can tell. Feel free to add a squirt of sriracha, or if you like a fishy taste, a squirt of fish sauce or oyster sauce or something. But make sure you stir it up really, really, really well so that everything is incorporated. Yes. All right, so now that everything's going in your wok, you're gonna want to add your freshly made sauce. Stir that up on in there. All right, so once that's good and simmering, you want it to be between a simmer and a boil. You want to add your crab legs back in. These are pretty much cooked, so they're going to get steamed, but try and get it to touch the broth as much as possible. All right, so you're going to want to make some room in your wok in the sauce, because next we're going to add our, drumroll please, noodles. All right, so ramen noodles, especially authentic noodles, tend to come with packages of dried veggies, seasonings, chili sauce, whatever. So when I add the puck of noodles, like we're gonna do right there, add all the little broken noodles, I usually wait to the end. I taste all the seasonings and the salt, the seasonings and the sauces that I have, and then I will add them to whatever I'm cooking to my liking. You don't have to use everything that's there. You can always save it for later. All right, so you want to make sure that your puck of noodles is hitting the broth and is getting cooked. You may have to do one at a time if you don't have any more room left. May just have to like wait until the noodles cook down to add the second pack of noodles, which I did here. We're gonna add our other puck of noodles now that these noodles have cooked down. Now that I've added in my other puck of noodles and they've cooked down, I'm gonna go ahead and add the seasonings that came with it. So I tasted all the seasonings. They taste very good and they go with exactly what I'm cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of those seasonings and all of the sauces. Just be careful because this meal, there's a lot of Old Bay, there's a lot of kind of like salt. So if you're not a big salt person, just watch yourself. Look at God. Once the noodles cook down and are done and everything is incorporated, you can go ahead and plate, baby. So I like to start with the noodles just because it's simple, and instead of just like scooping them in there, it really allows me to control like how much broth, especially that I put on the plate, because I do like broth on my plate. So plate it any way you like. I'm not professionally trained chef by any means. I just prefer to throw it all on there. Make it look cute. Yeah. All right, and for all my folks who like a fried egg, threw one on top just for you. You're gonna add your toppings. I'm gonna do scallions, more of those little red chilies, as well as some sesame seeds. Oh, fix my egg. Lord have mercy, that looks so good. Whew, I did my thing, y'all. Let's taste this bad boy. I look like I've been running errands and cooking all day. Nom 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 nom. Jewel. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any comments, tips, questions, anything. I'll post the real recipe soon. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did.